Hello, my name is Beatrice Zatorska, and I'm the founder of PD Buddy app, a self-care app for people with Parkinson's and their caregivers. And in today's interviews I've conducted for the Young Onset Parkinson's Network newspaper, I will be speaking to Michel Planquart, who is the co-founder of support group No Silver Bullet for PD. Which has taken the internet by storm over the past 3 years or so. Thousands of people are watching the YouTube videos, and I want to speak to Michel about his reflections and learnings from speaking to dozens of scientists, Parkinson scientists, over the past few years. Hello, Michel.
Hello, Beatrice. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Michel, I think first let's start from introducing what is No Silver Bullet for PD and what do you do?
So No Silver Bullet for PD is a Parkinson support group that is managed by Mark Lambert, my partner and friend, and myself. And our aim is really to share Parkinson's expertise. So we believe that medication is critical, but that there is much more than just medication that people with Parkinson's can do. So we advocate a holistic approach that includes medication, of course, as the fundament of everything we do, but also exercise, nutrition, meditation this time, and the use of technology. So we really want to help people with Parkinson's to become well-informed generalists about their condition. They will never be as specialized as their medical team, but they might have a wider, all-encompassing understanding of their condition and what they can do about it. So we really want to help them, and frankly, more than just help, to motivate them to make informed choices on how to adapt their lifestyle to try to manage their symptoms and hopefully to slow down the progression of the condition. So what we do for that is that we organize monthly webinars with some of the best Parkinson specialists in the world. And we post the recordings of our webinars on YouTube, where people can watch them. We have around 1,000 views or more per day of those webinars. And we also have basically, we use Spotify and other platforms to have, to give people the ability to listen to it while they exercise, for instance. We also post short videos on TikTok and Instagram. And the last thing to mention is that people who attend our live webinars are able to ask questions to those specialists, which is a unique opportunity.
Thank you. Why are you choosing to speak to researchers predominantly? You know, I don't see really speaking to pharma or big medical devices companies.
Well, a couple of years ago, we did a survey of our audience, and we really need to do that again. We do that by the end of the year. And we asked people what they wanted to hear about. And actually, not surprisingly, their main interest was for promising and new therapies that might help them. So I'd like to mention as well that the researchers we talk to are not just laboratory researchers. Very often, if not always, they meet patients and they have a clinical role or managing clinics for Parkinson's. So they have an all-encompassing view. And we have no issues talking to pharma, but frankly, we let ourselves be guided by who we think are the best specialists in the world to cover a specific topic. And so far, it has led us more towards researchers. And then lastly, your point about medical devices, I would disagree. We have covered red light therapy, photobiomodulation as it's called, across 3 webinars with different companies, 4 webinars even. And we have covered the Q1 vibro-tactile device with Lucy Young, who is the CEO of the company that produces that device. And we had a great interview with Peter Tass from Stanford University about the vibro-tactile gloves that we are all waiting for.
And how do you choose who to speak to, and how do you choose the topics as well?
Well, we start with the topic, and we frankly want to cover all the topics that are relevant to people with Parkinson's, and there are a lot. I mean, it's an endless list of topics. We try to achieve a balance between, I would say, what is a hot topic, like the hope of a new therapy, a new drug that would attract a lot of people to want to listen to. And we also want to cover some topics that are less sexy, to say so, but that are important to our understanding of the condition that affects us. For instance, genetics, inflammation, or mitochondria. So those sessions sometimes have a tiny bit less audience than the others. They're all well attended, but we just believe that people should know about everything. As I mentioned earlier, we want people with Parkinson's to become well-informed generalists in their condition. They should know their condition quite well because it's affecting their life 24 hours 7.
Mm-hmm. And now the main question, what have you learned from speaking to world-class scientists? If you can, the main Parkinson researchers, and if you can name top few learnings.
So the list is very, very long, and it's been an amazing experience over the last 3 years in terms of like enriching my understanding of my condition and basically what I can do about it. But one of the main learnings for me was a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, when I listened to a webinar by Alberto Espe, who was emphasizing the fact that Parkinson's is not a single illness, a single disease, but there probably are several different types of Parkinson's. And since then, I've read about various genetic forms, gut first, brain first, and many other ways of slicing that cake, if you want. But the main learning point for me, as Alberto Espe explained during the webinar, is that it's only once we start recognizing the fact that Parkinson's is not a single illness that we will be able to really find effective solutions to the condition. I couldn't help thinking of all those trials that sometimes fail because they have only helped 5% of the population in the trial. But what if those 5% were sharing one common characteristic that was making them 100% responsive to that medication? So we really need to recognize that. The second thing is that when I was diagnosed, I started feeling that I wanted to delay taking medication as much as possible. It was a sort of like denial of way to prove to myself that I wasn't really affected yet. And actually listening to webinars by people like Bastian Blum or Michael Okun, I have learned, and through other readings, that actually people should not delay taking levodopa. And although it was discovered like 40 or 60 years ago and not much has happened since then, it is still contributing to a substantial improvement in quality of life. So that's my second learning. I think that the main one, and so it's going to be a theme through this interview, is the basic thing that actually there is a lot more that can be done than just popping pills. So the popping pills is important. It's not contradictory, but it should not be the only thing that people do. And through a variety of seminars that I listened to, for instance, research showed that exercise is not only helping with symptoms, but exercise might even be able to help slow down the progression. And as Bastian Blum mentioned it with a big question mark because there is no proof of that, maybe one day we'll discover that it can help basically revert some symptoms. So that is an important learning for me. And a lot of neurologists are looking at exercise, nutrition, etc., as just nice things to do on the side, with the medication being the only central thing that one should do. I think it is more than that. It is really more like a spectrum of things we should target to achieve simultaneously. Then something that was really unexpected, listening to Laurie Mishley, is the fact that loneliness is the main predictor of a negative outcome of your Parkinson's. So how many people listening to this interview will be able to say, my neurologist told me that social interactions was important? I'm sure this is probably close to zero. And yet being lonely and sad and anxious and depressed on your own is probably one of the worst things you can do to manage your symptoms. So it's quite important to be proactive about that and to try to keep on going out, even if I share that feeling that many people have, that I don't like crowds, and I don't like going out in events that are exhausting, like cocktail parties and stuff like that. But still, one should make an effort to manage that aspect of the relationship with others. And then finally, I think that the main point for me as well is that people should be in the driving seat of their condition. And that's really important. Of course, you should work closely with your medical team, but this is your condition and no one will be invested in it as much as you will be, or the person who cares for you. And I want to mention that my father had Parkinson's and he did nothing like that. He only took the pills and kept on taking more pills and managing debilitating symptoms of hallucination and psychosis. And did nothing else than that. And he did not exercise, didn't change his nutrition, never meditated in his life, never used relaxation techniques, never used technology. And very frankly, after I saw him passing away 2 years ago, sadly, I think that I owe it to my family and to myself to try to do better than this.
And based on your knowledge, speaking to the researchers, also you have quite popular TikTok channel where you're presenting the latest research and also medical breakthroughs. You went to the Barcelona Parkinson's conference where we met loads of other researchers. Giving all this knowledge, are you hopeful there is gonna to be a cure for Parkinson's during your lifetime?
Well, I would love to see a silver bullet, which is a bit contradictory with the title of our community, which, by the way, is more referring to the fact that we should have a holistic approach. It doesn't mean there is no silver bullet. It means that the silver bullet is perhaps to do all those things. It may be multiple silver bullets. Now, having said that, some people like Jonathan Zachner-Bernstein, who I interviewed a couple of months ago, saying that there might be one. So, I'm quite aware of the fact that there is a lot of research taking place in the Parkinson's world. And often people wonder, but if you exclude cancer research and you exclude the research of related to COVID, I think that the Parkinson's research is number 4 in terms of amount of money being spent. Now, of course, Alzheimer receives far more money, and we should continue to try to reduce that gap. But we should also be aware of the fact that there is no glut of research in Parkinson's. And that research goes in all directions. And actually, if people listen to my TikTok or my Instagram videos, some of them are related to mitochondria, to inflammation, to nutrition, the gut, the importance of the gut. So people are even looking for vaccination. A company called Vaccinity is trying to develop a vaccine for Parkinson's. So the fact that it goes in so many directions will hopefully generate something at some point. I believe personally that we are more likely to see ways of slowing down progression than a magic pill that would help take care of the condition once and for all. And I think that actually, as mentioned by Kevin McFarthing in one of our webinars, we might end up having to take a cocktail of pills, some of them helping for motor symptoms, some of them helping for cognition, and that combination might be different to different ways of expressing those symptoms, in different ways of expressing Parkinson's in people. So cautiously optimistic, not thinking there will be a silver bullet necessarily, but there should be some progress, hopefully.
And what are you most excited about in the current research? If you can name a few most exciting findings.
The first thing that I find really crazy and amazing is the fact that we are finding more and more about the powerful role of exercise. So there is a growing belief that exercise can not only help you manage your symptoms, but it can also help you slow down progression. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a big question mark about would it be able to reverse symptoms? At the moment, that has not been demonstrated. But a few years ago, we didn't even know it could help slow down progression. So as our understanding of the role of exercise progresses, we are finding out that exercise might be the magic pill. And actually, if there was a pill that was delivering the same results as exercise does, we would all be fighting for it. So I think that, to me, this is a message for everyone that actually there is no excuse, that we can self-care to some extent by exercising. And that is quite exciting. The second thing I would be looking at is that there are very few disease-modifying drugs that are in phase 3 trials. So disease-modifying is by opposition to symptomatic. Something that helps with the tremors is symptomatic. Something that helps slow down progression is disease-modifying. And a phase 3 trial is one of the last stages of trialing a drug before it gets commercialized. So there are very few disease-modifying drugs that are in phase 3. But one of them is exenatide, which is potentially disease-modifying therapy, and we should have results later this year. So that's quite exciting, and we should look forward to that. Something else is stem cells, and I'm a bit ambivalent about stem cells. On the one hand, I'm quite excited to see some encouraging results. On the other hand, I'm not sure that it will be delivered in my lifetime on a wide scale and an affordable basis. But some of the companies working on stem cells are talking of 5 to 7 years. Even if it is 7 to 10, I would still take it. So let's just keep an eye on that. And then lastly, I would say that I'm quite excited about the repurposing of existing drugs. This is something that my favorite charity, Cure Parkinson's, are actively supporting. This is basically finding out existing drugs that were not designed for Parkinson's, but have some side effects, for instance, that could be beneficial to people with Parkinson's. And I'm quite excited about that. Exenatide is one example of that. I think it is a drug for that was invented well before to help people with different conditions. So I think that the repurposing of drugs is exciting because it means that it can go faster to the market, because the regulatory approvals are more limited for a drug that has already been on the market and has already been experienced for quite a while. So that is another thing that I'm quite excited about. And the list is very long, but I will probably stop at that for the moment.
And from a patient perspective, what researchers could do better or differently to help people with Parkinson's?
Well, I would say the first thing is that I would like researchers to share the sense of urgency that we feel as patients with Parkinson's, people with Parkinson's. Too often I read about research on mice that will never have any human follow-up. And too often, if not always, research ends up with more research is required. So it looks like a never-ending loop of more research being required. And I think that I would like researchers to feel that urgency, and that basically people with Parkinson's tend to be in their 60s. I'm a bit younger than that, but in their 60s or more, they may have 20 years ahead of them. So those years are precious, and it's a race against time more than anything else. I would like them to understand basically this is not an academic exercise, looking for more funding, for more research. It's enough of that situation for most of us. And then lastly, I would say that there is a total lack of research about Parkinson's and women and Parkinson's. And that is not only important for understanding how to help women better, but it's also important to help us all. For instance, looking at women and Parkinson's would mean looking at hormonal changes. And that could help us understand important drivers of the disease that are affecting not just women, but men as well. We have a great webinar on women and Parkinson's with two amazing women presenting. Anneline Osterban, who works for Bas Bloom, and Michel Planquart, who is well known as well. So they both are very strong advocates.
Your YouTube channel is being watched every day, thousands of people. And why do you think people with Parkinson's and their caregivers can benefit from learning about research?
So you're perfectly right, Beatrice, that actually we have had 750,000 views over the last 3 years, and we have like 1,200 views every day for our YouTube channel, which is really, for me, an indicator of success of reaching out to the wider community and helping them better understand their condition and how to manage it. I think that simply many people with Parkinson's, and I include myself in that when I was diagnosed 5 years ago, and their caregivers are struggling to find information about what they can do about their symptoms and their condition. A common theme among people with Parkinson's is that the communication of their initial diagnosis tends to be a very disappointing experience. I was as well, being told that this is neurodegenerative, so it's going to get worse all the time, and that there is no cure. Now, it's factually correct, but this doesn't tell us the things that we can do to improve our quality of life and aim to slow down the progression. I'm not going to go back to the litany of exercise, nutrition, etc., but all those things are very rarely mentioned. So in a sense, why do people with PD and their caregivers look at our research and at our website? Because it has become one of the main sources of information about those things that you need to know about, and that your doctor will not always necessarily tell you when you have your diagnosis.
And how do you apply the learnings from research to your own life?
Well, it has changed my life entirely. I was fortunate enough to be able to stop working 5 years ago, and I know that not everyone has that luxury. But I have designed a routine that I've now been following religiously every day. And that includes, as you would expect, medication, exercise, nutrition, meditation, and the use of technology. So I can't get away from it. I exercise roughly for 2 hours most days, including cardio, hands, voice, etc. And my exercise routine was inspired by webinars from Bas Bloom and Julie Jones that are on our website, on our YouTube channel. I have a very strict diet that excludes alcohol and gluten. No, gluten is not a topic that was covered, so I will leave it aside, but I decided to go non-gluten. I've substantially reduced sugars and fat, so no more McDonald's, no more chocolates, etc., apart from 90% black chocolate. The changes I made to my nutrition were largely inspired by Bas Bloom again, but also Laurie Michel, who has a great webinar on what people do who are doing well with Parkinson's, and Matthew Phillips from New Zealand, who is an amazing research specialist on dietary therapy, such as fasting, which are practiced, or keto diets. I also use meditation and relaxation techniques, and that was something entirely new to me because I wasn't doing that previously. And revelation for me was an interview, a webinar with Rick Helmich, who works for Bas Bloom. And Rick Helmich basically has opened my eyes on the role of stress in the condition, but also the benefits of relaxation techniques that are quite substantial. In terms of technology, I'm using red light therapy, and we have 3 webinars, if not 4, on this topic. And we don't have a webinar on this, but I very recently experimented with a device that is called TENS, T-E-N-S, which means transcutaneous, that means through the skin, electrical nerve stimulation. Rigidity is one of my main issues, and that little device that basically works with patches that you can put on different parts of your body that sends current through the cables has been great for me. So I think that experimenting is quite important as long as it is done safely. So my routine has now become a full-time job, but it has helped me control anxiety through meditation, increase my energy levels, improve my balance. It's not perfect, but it's better. Regain my sense of smell, improve my voice, and dexterity. It is really not perfect, but I can write better than I was able to when I realized I couldn't even write a birthday card to my daughter. Nowadays, I can do that again. So it doesn't all go one way. You can recover some things, not 100%, but through continuous exercise, you can do better. So I think that actually the whole thing here is that my routine is not a routine that should be cut and paste for everyone. There are things I don't do, for instance, dancing, singing, art is not my thing, but it is so beneficial to others. So this is just one example, if you want, of what can be done.
And the other component, which is the social life, it's a part of your routine as well, because you are helping others. I know that every week, almost daily, people coming to you, following YouTube channel, interviews, TikTok and Instagram, posts, and asking you questions about how you're managing symptoms, because we talk about research, they are asking you about the findings. Why do you think people are coming to you exactly for that?
Well, I think referring back to my previous point about too often the relationship with your neurologist is based on medication only. I think people struggle to find the information about other things they can do elsewhere. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but you have to look for it. And the beauty of our YouTube channel is that it's all included there with some of the best specialists in the world, talking about variety of topics. I think that based on the community's feedback and what people say about our videos and our webinars, one element as well is that we're giving them back hope. Is that very often the diagnosis is a realization at that stage that there is no hope, it's going to get worse and worse, and I will end up in a wheelchair. And through our seminars, we demonstrate to people that, well, this may happen in many, many years, but in the meantime, you can live a very fulfilling life in having that holistic approach to managing your symptoms.
So, and what do you tell them? What kind of advice are you giving them? Well,
interestingly, the people who reach out to me have already, in most cases, taken a proactive approach to managing their condition or helping someone else with their condition. As you can tell through this interview, I really recommend a holistic approach that includes medication, exercise, nutrition, meditation, and technology. All those topics are covered by the webinar, so I basically encourage them to listen to those things because they will listen to people who are far more knowledgeable than me talking about those topics. I think, as well as I mentioned, that people should be able to experiment safely. Now, certain things will be safe. Certain others will be more tricky, like supplements and everything. And I'm not a doctor, so I basically encourage them to stay in touch with their doctors, even if they have been disappointed by a certain aspect of the diagnosis. They should not go without medical support, and I'm not there to supply that. Above all, I'd like them all to understand that Parkinson's is not, like the motto says, it's not a death sentence, it's a call to action. And as I mentioned earlier, I saw my father not doing that. I'm trying to do it differently. Many people around the world are managing their symptoms actively, and I'm encouraging people who talk to me, to join that bandwagon if you want. I would also say that anyone wanting to talk to me directly will be able to do it through an app called PD Buddy, Parkinson's disease PD Buddy, where I will be advertising a monthly session where I will try to dialogue with newly diagnosed people with Parkinson's and helping them as much as I can manage their condition. But as I said, I'm not a doctor. It is more my personal experience and helping them finding out where to find the information they need to access. The first session will be in September, and I intend to continue with that monthly if it is successful. I think that anyone wanting to be invited to our future webinars, the next one is on next Monday. It's about mitochondria. The next one would be gut and the importance of the vagus nerve, etc. So everyone wanting to be invited to our future webinars or wanting to see the recordings of our existing webinars should be visiting our website, which is nosilverbullet4pd, nosilverbullet4pd.com.
Thank you very much, Michel. And this was very nice, very, very interesting. And anyone else who would like to speak directly to Michel are very welcome to just log into PDBuddy app. It's free to use, very easy to sign up. And the first session with Michel, it's a special group, chat group, as well monthly sessions, like Michel said. It's a great idea, Michel, to exchange the ideas between people who have been diagnosed some time ago and the people who are newly diagnosed, kind of help each other, because the power of the community helping each other is precious. So the first one will be with Michel on the 5th of September. Thank you very much. Thank you. Speak to you soon.
Thank you for having me.